All right, thank you for tuning in to Chompin at the Bit. This is episode 17. And on this episode, we're going to talk about the NBA Finals Game 2 that just happened tonight. Game 2, Lakers won 124 over the Heat, 114. So the Lakers now have a 2-0 series lead. And right now it's looking like series might be over already. You know, the Heat, they are banged up. So this game they were missing Goran Dragic, who has the plantar fascia tear in his foot. And then Adebayo has a neck injury, so he was out. And, you know, it was evident from the beginning that they were missing both those players. So, like I said, 2-0 series lead for the Lakers. Anthony Davis had 32 points, 14 rebounds. LeBron had 33 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists. Then on the Heat side, you had Butler, 25 points, 13 assists, 8 rebounds. And then Olynyk, 24 points, 9 rebounds. So just looking at how the game went, like I said, they missed Adebayo's presence down low, especially on the boards. They missed Dragic offensively to kind of get them, you know, in their set. And Dragic is usually pretty good at getting into the lane and either finding his own shot or kicking it out to, you know, player on the wing to kind of create on their own. So without that, the Heat's offense was kind of stagnant most of the night. I mean, yes, they did score 114 points, but they were better in the second half of the game than they were in the first half. First half, they scored like 54 points, which isn't bad, but they gave up 68, so it just looked worse. But the third quarter, they had a really great third quarter where they scored 39 points. Only problem was they let the Lakers score 35 points in the third quarter. So it's kind of a wasted opportunity to really cut into the lead or even take a lead of their own. So, like I said, without Adebayo, the Lakers were able to kind of roam free on the glass, which was evident because they had 16 offensive rebounds tonight. And that's just a recipe for Lakers win every time. Because the Lakers, if they can get the offensive rebounds, that gives them second opportunity. And usually with that second opportunity, if the Heat are in zone defense, that creates kind of scramble mode for the zone. And if you get a second opportunity, you can usually get an easy shot out of it by getting somebody, you know, from the zone out of position. And, you know, for, I guess, those who may not know what the zone defense is, as I refer to it a lot with Miami. So they kind of play a switching zone where guys kind of just play an area on defense, and as Laker players run into their zone, that's who they'll cover. But if there's nobody in their zone, then they'll look to double or step up on a guy. If, you know, somebody gets beaten at the top, then they'll be there to kind of close the lane off. Like I said, usually when shots go up, the Heat players will turn their back and look for the ball. So the Lakers were able to create opportunities from that, where they would, you know, find a gap, get into an area, and then go up for rebounds and either tip them out or grab them and kick them out. Now, another statistic from this game, which kind of tells a story, is Miami's one shot at winning this series is, you know, they're supposed to be the better outside shooting team, whereas the Lakers are more of a, you know, slash to the hoop or AD posting up and kind of getting a lot of points in the paint. Now, they did shoot a better percentage from three in this game, but the issue was that the Heat only made 11 3-pointers as opposed to the Lakers making 16 threes. So that's plus 15 for the Lakers from the 3-point line, which can't happen for Miami. Miami has to dominate the 3-point line to offset the Lakers' ability to score around the rim, as the Lakers have more size. And, you know, that the fact that the Heat only had 11 threes falls on their two top 3-point shooters in Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson. So between the two of them, they were only 3 from 10 from 3. So that's 30%, which is way below their averages, as Hero averages 39%. Robinson is their 3-point specialist because he shot 45% on the year. I believe like 90 to 95% of his actual shot attempts came from 3, which is a ridiculous stat to begin with, because most 3-point specialists will occasionally take a shot from inside the arc, even for the fact that they'll get chased off the 3-point line and have to dribble in and take a long 2. But somehow Robinson, because he has a quick release, he can get up most of his 3-point shots when he wants to. It's just that tonight he and Hero weren't hitting from out there. And that's such a big part of Miami's game, because their team's kind of set up for Butler to be the guy to drive to the hoop. Dragic, when he is playing, Dragic can hit the 3, but Dragic is better served getting into the paint. And then, of course, you have Adebayo, who lives around the rim. So that gives all that open space on the perimeter for Hero and Robinson to move around the arc and hopefully catch the defense sleeping, and they can find an open pocket to get a 3-pointer off. So, looking at those 3 big stats from the game, that kind of told the story as to how the Lakers were able to get the win. It was a 10-point game, but I believe the Lakers' largest lead in the game was 18. The Heat made a little bit of a run a couple of times and got it below 10, as low as 5 at one point. But it seemed like at that point, the Heat had used a lot of energy to get down below double digits. And once they got down to 5, the Lakers went on a little run, got it back into double figures, and that was kind of the story of the game. So I guess if you spin it forward, looking ahead to game 3, the Heat are going to need to make a decision defensively with LeBron and Anthony Davis. So like I said, tonight, AD had 32 and LeBron had 33. Miami can't have both guys going for 30 plus. And with AD getting 14 rebounds, LeBron 9 rebounds and 9 assists, they had their finger pretty much on every aspect of the game, and they outplayed Miami that way. So Miami needs to either decide, to let AD kind of get his numbers and limit LeBron. By that I mean, keep LeBron out on the perimeter and force him to beat you from out there. Or if you keep LeBron on the perimeter and he doesn't look for his shot, then at least you can keep him, his, offensive impact to a minimal state. And then that way they're relying on guys like Rondo and KCP and Caruso to hit shots. Now, Rondo did have 16 points tonight. But even with that, he did a lot of that interior-wise. He did hit a couple of threes. But as I have said before, Miami doesn't have to overreact to that. Because, 3-point shooting is not Rondo's game. So if he hits a couple, you let it be. The only thing is, just don't give him wide open lanes to pass from and to shoot from. Because, when he shoots the three, he's kind of a set shooter. He doesn't really shoot on the run. So when he gets the ball, it kind of takes him a second or so to get set, get his hand off to the side, and then shoot the three. As long as you have a defender within arm's length of him, he most likely won't take that shot unless the shot clock's running down. So, like I was saying with LeBron and AD, I feel like at this point, if Adebayo is going to continue to be out, then the Heat's defense needs to focus on keeping LeBron on the perimeter, get the ball out of his hand, make Rondo or KCP or even Caruso have to start the offense, because if you let LeBron just pass the ball, he's fine doing that. And usually that means he can find AD down low. And even if you look at the game tonight, AD had, Jay Crowder on him. Now, AD's 7 foot tall, mind you. Jay Crowder is like 6'7", 6'7", 6'8", if that. So AD had the clear height advantage. And at that point, he's just going to either pull up from the mid-range, or if he can up fake his defender, he'll take him to the rim. Or the place where AD's probably killing the most is when LeBron or Rondo get into the lane. The defense around the rim pays too much attention to them. AD dives to the hoop, and he'll either catch a lob or a quick little dump pass and then go for a dunk at the rim. So if I were Eric Spoelstra, I would let AD kind of, get his numbers. Only thing I would want is for him to work from the perimeter. Because by saying that, I'm just saying, just let AD post up everybody and get easy shots around the rim. Because that's going to kind of defeat the purpose. You put a guy in AD who can body him up, force him away from the hoop, and make him shoot over you. If he does that and he can score, 35 points, at that point you just have to shake his hand and say, you got me. But if AD gets 35, you limit LeBron to 20, 25, I think the Heat would have a much better shot of winning Game 3. And at this point, being down 2-0, Game 3 is the game that they have to win. Because at least if the Heat were to win Game 3, you make it a 2-1 series. Then you can kind of build on that towards the Game 4. If Miami loses Game 3, the series will definitely be over. Which, after watching the first two games, you can kind of call the series over right now. Because it's just obvious that the Heat are just too beat up right now. And with Adebayo out, they're just too small. Now, they did play Myers Leonard tonight. He's a backup big man who hasn't really seen a lot of playoff action based off of the matchups that the Heat have played. They played a Celtics team that kind of goes small a lot. They played a Bucks team which plays only one true 6'11", 7 foot big man. And then they played Indiana, which they're kind of the same way with only one true big man. So they could get away with just playing Adebayo. And then if they take Adebayo out, they could get by with a few minutes of a smaller lineup. Against the Lakers with Davis and LeBron, with Davis being basically 7 foot, LeBron being, I don't know what LeBron's listed at, but LeBron's got to be 6'9", 6'10". That poses too much of an issue for this smaller Heat team. So, especially defensively, with the Heat going small, depending on if Adebayo plays or not, I believe the report is he's going to try to play in Game 3. But with the neck strain, you never know. So we'll just have to wait for game night to see what the Heat decide to do with him. So if Adebayo doesn't play, they'll be in their zone defense for a much longer amount of time in the game. If Adebayo does play, they'll play man-to-man and then sprinkle in the zone here and there. Either way, the zone defense has to be better because they did play zone tonight without Adebayo. And the zone was kind of lazy at spots where, the Lakers would swing the ball around the perimeter a couple of times. And once they got it cross court, that guy was able to get to the rim without any problem. Because at that point, the guy who was under the rim protecting it was usually like Butler, or I think there were some instances where like Duncan Robinson found himself down there. And Robinson isn't, that capable of a defender. So once the Lakers player was able to get by his man at the top, once he got in the lane, at that point, he could do whatever he wants, whether it's a quick pull up in the lane or go straight to the rim for a layup. So, like I said, Game 3, the Heat's defensive energy is going to have to be up there because they're going to have to make it tough on the Lakers, hopefully force some turnovers, which they didn't do that much of tonight. I think the Lakers had about 8 turnovers. And if you're going to play small, you're going to have to force at least double-digit turnovers. Anything less than that, then going small, you probably got exposed, which they did tonight. So, as I said, for the Heat Game 3, they have to shoot. Well, Hero and Robinson need to shoot better from 3. They have to find a way to control Anthony Davis on the glass. Hopefully Adebayo can help out with that. And then they need to keep LeBron or AD under 30. They can't both go over 30. For the Lakers, it's very simple. You're up 2-0. Kind of what you've been doing for the first 2 games. You can continue doing until the Heat show that they can stop it. So with that, the Lakers need Rondo to continue to be kind of that second playmaker for them offensively. I mean, yes, he does come off the bench, but he plays a good amount of minutes where if he's on the court with LeBron, Rondo can take some offensive pressure off of LeBron by, not having LeBron to have to, get the offense started or, be the primary ball handler. If LeBron needs a break offensively, you could put the ball in Rondo's hand at the top. LeBron could go chill in the short corner. Or, in a rare instance, if he has a smaller man on him, he can do a quick little post up or kind of in the high post. And, work from there, whether it's kicking to the corner or quick move to the rim. So Rondo just, they say playoff Rondo. He just has to keep playing at that level. And then the second thing that we've seen from the first 2 games is the Heat really do not have an answer for AD. Because AD's that rare combination of being 7 foot, who can play around the rim. He can shoot mid-range. And if you leave him open enough, he can knock down the 3. And that's all because, AD was a point guard as a kid. So I think he had a crazy growth spurt in high school, which then made him play down low. But he still kept his, guard skills of being young. So that's why he's kind of that, odd big man who's athletic enough to catch it on the wing, dribble drive to the hoop, and he can also take you down in the paint, and he has an offensive set down there where he can, fade away, quick little, like half hook over his shoulder or face up, then pull up or face up, make a move, go to the rim. So he's a tough matchup for a lot of teams, but especially without Adebayo, who's an athletic big himself. Miami's just at his mercy at this point. So I know when the series started, I gave my prediction of Lakers in 6. I mean, after the first 2 games, it's looking like Miami might be lucky to win 1. But you never know. Each game's its own story. So if the Heat win game 3, my Lakers in 6 prediction could end up being right. But if they lose game 3, I would not be surprised if the Heat end up getting swept. Which would be unfortunate because, you know, viewers will know that the Heat probably got swept because of injuries. And for an NBA Finals, you don't want to see a sweep in the finals. It's just not. It's just like an anticlimactic end to the season. Not saying it has to go 7 games or anything, but at least 6 would be entertaining enough. So hopefully Spoelstra and his coaching staff can come up with some kind of plan. I mean, like I said, you got to get Hero and Robinson going early on in game 3. If they can establish that there'll be threats from the outside, then Lakers may have to change up their game plan, at least defensively. Because if Hero and Robinson can force the Lakers defense to push out, then that leaves cutting lanes for Crowder, Butler. I mean, Dragic I think is out because of torn plantar fascia in your foot. Yeah, that I don't see him playing the rest of this series. That'd be asking too much of him. Because the amount of pain he must be in, just like standing up and walking around, I can't see him running around on the court, you know, trying to slide his feet, playing defense. I don't know. I mean, out of Dragic and Adebayo, my guess is Adebayo is more likely to return in this series. I think you just have to worry about next year for Dragic. I mean, he is like 35, so we'll have to see if there is a next year for Dragic. But yeah, so series hasn't been that great so far. Like I said, Lakers are up 2-0. Have been pretty dominant both games. But the Heat are a team that will not quit. They're going to fight to the end, even if they get swept. By the end of the series, you're not going to say the Heat gave up. At least I think. Between Butler's got a tough mentality. So you figure that he's going to keep going. And by him being the leader of the team, apparently, the rest of the team should fall in line. Especially with Dragic out, Butler's the unquestioned leader. I mean, they do have Haslam on the bench. But there's only so much he can do without actually playing. Because first 2 games, there's been instances where he's called not he, but Spoelstra's called a timeout. And you see Haslam getting into the team, trying to, you know, motivate them or just kind of push them. Hasn't worked as they've lost both games, but like I said, you never know. All it takes is a play here or there. Miami get momentum on their side, and you can have yourself a brand new series. But like I said, as it looks right now, not a chance. So it's my recap of game 2. Look forward to game 3. There was another story that I did want to talk about in this episode. It is basketball related, so it works. So recent days, the news out of the NBA Doc Rivers got fired from the Clippers after they were stunned in the second round by the Nuggets. I understand why they did it. I kind of thought he'd keep his job, but I get why. I guess they mutually parted ways or whatever. Took Rivers about a couple of days. He got the Sixers job. It's good for him. Future episode will, go into the coaching vacancies, see which coaches took which jobs, who's the best fit if one isn't filled, and what each coach needs to do to get those teams to the playoffs if they haven't been, or if they've been to the playoffs, to the next level. And then with that, Steve Nash took the Brooklyn job, I think a couple of weeks ago. I believe it was yesterday where the audio or the story came out from, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant talk about coaching's going to be a collaborative effort. And I was just thinking about it. I don't get, I guess I kind of understand it, but then I kind of don't. Because, yes, most coaches, get with their star players to kind of find out, what they're comfortable running, or which players they may be comfortable with, or, use their star players to recruit, free agents and all that. I get that part. But I feel like when it comes game day, I don't need to see like KD, Kyrie, taking the whiteboard in a timeout, drawing up a player or anything, or telling, Steve Nash what to run. I think at that point, the coaching part isn't collaborative. Because by the start of next season, Steve Nash should understand how the team works, the best spots for the team to succeed, and you kind of have to let him do his thing. So I found that to be an interesting comment from the two of them. Also, Kyrie was talking about it's the first time he's played with a guy who he can look at and say, oh yeah, he can take the final shot. I don't have to take it. Which, of course, everybody ran with as a shot at LeBron. I mean, I can't, speak for Kyrie. But Kyrie has had his, he has taken a couple of opportunities to, throw, backhanded shots at LeBron or whatever. But then again, I was just like, is Kyrie the guy to really, throw out there that he's going to be collaborating with the coach? Because, Kyrie talked his way out of town in Cleveland. He didn't like, being the little brother to LeBron's big brother. So he wanted to get out, kind of show that he could lead a team. He went to the Celtics. It was a complete disaster in Boston. The first year he was there, he was hurt, and the team was making a deep playoff run. He didn't really support them. He didn't support the young guys. I mean, when they made to Game 7 against LeBron's Cleveland team, Kyrie wasn't even on the bench. He opted to have some random surgery or procedure done, which he could have waited till after the playoffs to do, but he didn't. And also that first year was, it was a weird year for him, because that's when, 5 minutes into the season, he throws a lob to Gordon Hayward. Hayward, as you know, came down funny, messed up his leg. Yeah. So then he gets hurt later that year. Then the second year, he plays. They get into the playoffs. Complete disaster. The team looked like they were, disjointed. And it almost seemed like Kyrie had created a division in the locker room where it was you either were with Kyrie or you weren't. And because of that, Kyrie left or whatever. The Celtics were at that point happy to see him go because clearly he wasn't the guy to lead that young team, which is why they brought in Kemba Walker. Kemba's the better leader on the court and all that, yeah. But this is why I did say when Steve Nash got hired that, from the outside, people were looking at the Brooklyn job as a pretty good job, only because you have KD and Kyrie. But for the new coach, going in there, which turned out to be Steve Nash, the personalities on those two players, they're just so they're odd guys to the point where you're not sure once they play on the court together how well they're going to mesh together. I'm sure they'll be fine as long as the team's winning, but with those two, if they start losing, not playing as well as they think, I could easily see those two looking to run away from each other. At least that's the way I see it. I could be wrong. The two of them could be, good friends. They could elevate each other. Well, especially with KD, we don't know how he's going to look coming back from his Achilles injury. So that's going to be an interesting storyline for next year. But yeah, so I just wanted to touch on that real quick and give my thoughts on that. So, Lakers 2-0. Game 3 is, I want to say, the Sunday. Yeah, Sunday, 7:30. After the game, I'll do an episode or recap that game. Hopefully, the Heat can make it a series. If not, maybe talking about sweep on that episode. Also coming up, I have, definitely the next episode, I'm going to go back to NFL action because I have to give my picks for week 3. I did give my Thursday night pick, but I have to give the rest of my picks for week 3. Also look at the slate of games and pick out the ones that I'm interested to watch. You know how I usually do every week. Plus, I may work in an episode as well something about the baseball playoffs, as I believe they're into the second round now. So they expanded their playoffs this year. I mean, there's a lot to cover, like 16 teams worth while football and basketball are going on. But now, as it's trimmed down a little bit, I can work them in now. I just kind of look ahead to see, who I think might win the World Series this year. And also we'll start touching on college football as the ACC is going, SEC is getting up and running, and we're now getting into big matchups in both conferences. So we'll start looking at that as well, at least until the Big Ten and all those get ready to start playing. So, with that, I guess that's as good a point as any to end this episode. Just want to, thank you guys for listening. As I say, if you're new, definitely, like, subscribe, follow. If you want to drop a comment. Also, for those, who have listened to many of these episodes, definitely drop a comment, about a topic you want me to talk about. Or if you want to give your thoughts on anything that I've talked about, I definitely would appreciate it. If you want to hit me up on Twitter, you can do that at Chompin Podcast. It's very easy. And do the same thing there. Send me topic ideas or any questions you may have, because I do want to set aside some time in some episodes during the week where, like I said, I don't want to just do this for those who are diehard sports fans. Also the ones who are trying to, pick up a little knowledge of certain sports or whatever. So definitely drop your questions in there so I can try to help you out. But yeah, appreciate you tuning in. Be safe and catch you in the next episode. All right.